Bonjour, good afternoon, magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. You're watching Eagle News International. I'm Marcos Rudo coming to you from Toronto, Canada, bringing you stories from across the country. Now, wherever you are, whatever it is you may be doing, like we always ask you, let's all continue to practice proper hygiene, social distancing. Let's all practice being responsible so that we can continue to keep our loved ones and ourselves safe. Now, we will always do our best to keep you entertained, informed, and updated of the news coming from Canada. And we start off with the latest COVID numbers coming from Canada, and it looks like the measures taken by both the government and the individual Canadians, all 30 million of us are taking, well, they're working. The COVID numbers continue to drop in most areas. Last month, Canada had almost 30,000 active cases at the beginning of July. But according to the government website, that number continues to drop, and we now just have a little bit under 7,000 active cases nationally. Now, with the situation seemingly getting better, provinces are taking measured approaches to reopening in this new normal. Now, with the Ontario government taking the measure to open schools in September, many questions and concerns have been raised as to how effective and, more importantly, how safe reopening schools actually are. So we spoke out to some teachers and asked them some questions about reopening, asking them things like how they feel about reopening in general, and on a personal side, how they feel going back to work. And this was their response.
It's a lot of mixed of emotions. I'm mostly excited and happy and elated to be able to be back in the classroom, to be back at school, to be able to see my colleagues, most especially to see the kids. However, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I'm worried, I'm scared, and I'm anxious about how the rules and guidelines and how school will look like. So it is a pool of mixed emotions.
I have mixed emotions. I obviously have not gone to school physically, and not having been teaching in the classroom for over a good 4 months. I definitely miss the face-to-face interaction. As you know, part of being a teacher is being able to see everyone face-to-face, and walking around in the classroom, and having taught online for the past 4 months or so inside my room, cooped up, it's definitely not the same. So I'm definitely excited to come back in that aspect, but of course concerned about the safety of all the students. That's obviously something that I'm concerned about coming back to the actual school itself. On a personal side, going back to work, I think for me it's really a relief, to be honest, to go back to work. I miss having that routine, and I miss being able to just, commute every single day. Believe it or not, I even miss the traffic.
I'm excited. I'm excited to be back in the classroom, to be back in school. Remote learning is not for everyone, and to be honest, it's not for me. To be able to be in a classroom and to have materials and resources readily available, because in reality, when we close up our classrooms, we get about a week to 2 weeks. When COVID first hit, we didn't know how long we were planning for, and we literally had just minutes of just packing up our classroom and just get in and get out. We didn't know how long it was going to last for, and we were advised by our principal to plan for September looking like it was going to be remote. So I'm excited to be able to be back in the classroom, be back in my environment.
We also asked them, do they think it's safe? Is the government and the individual school boards doing enough to take care of the teachers, the parents, and the students' concerns? And what extra measures are they taking as they go back to school?
At the salons, the restaurants, I think they've done a really good job to keep these rules stringent and making sure that the public adheres to the policies when it comes to wearing masks, for example, making sure that they keep a physical distance of at least 6 feet. And I think it's something that they will also, of course, implement stringently in the schools. So I personally think as long as the rules and precautions are recognized and implemented properly, I think it will be safe. Mind you, I think it's also important to make sure that we decrease class numbers, which is also a good part, which is also a good point. We've always, even before the pandemic, we've always, been concerned about class numbers being too big. So I think this is actually a blessing in disguise. And I hope the government, if they continue doing the same, implementing the same rules and precautions that they've done with the other businesses, I think we'll do all right. Personally, my extra measures that I will take is obviously wearing a face mask, even perhaps wearing a face shield. As you know, being a teacher, part of it is being able to interact with people, and I feel like wearing a mask might kind of provide that distance that we might not want. So probably wearing a face shield, but making sure that sanitizing, washing your hands, asking students to take that time to really sanitize, making sure that you don't really share any of their supplies, and just being aware of all of these measures in the classroom.
Oh, that's a hard one. I think only time will tell. Yes, there are going to be rules and procedures and guidelines put together by the government and by the school boards. And yes, everyone's main concern is everybody's safety, but they're all doing their best that they can, and who knows how safe it really will be. And for sure there's going to be modifications and adaptations that will be happening as the school year rolls out. So fingers crossed that everything works out okay. Oh, for sure. I think the big one for me is space, because as it stands right now, there isn't a decrease in amount of students coming into the classroom for the elementary levels. So I have 27 that are coming to me in September, and we are already in close quarters. So to be able to plan around and move furniture around and make sure that 27 kids can properly be social distanced is going to be tricky. Also, I want to make sure that my classroom is ready to go, and there is a lot of shared materials amongst the students, so that's also something to take into consideration, because you want to be able to have activities and workspaces enough for the kids to be able to learn from, but yet still be able to abide by the safety measures. So that number one safety thing for me is space.
And finally, we asked them, as a teacher, how will students be able to learn effectively under all of this uncertainty? And what do they love about being a teacher?
I think for right now, I think our main focus should be the students' well-being. It's going to be a hard transition coming back to school for everybody, for the families, for the teachers, most especially for the students. If you think about it, this will be the very first time that they'll be able to see their classmates, see their friends, come back to their classroom, and to be able to see their teachers, to see their school playground not covered up in caution tape, to be able to go through the playground gates without it being locked. So for me personally, I think that when a child is happy to come to school, is happy to be in the classroom, the learning will come. But for right now, I think we need to work on the transitions for the kids emotionally and in their well-being, make sure that it's an easy one, make sure that it's a happy one, and the learning will come.
As a teacher, I know that the uncertainty, it's going to impact their way of learning, but I think part of being a teacher is being able to adapt to any situation and being able to adapt the way you teach. At the end of the day, I always tell my students, I'm a teacher second, but I'm a human first. So just being able to comfort them during this time of uncertainty, and using my platform as a teacher to educate people on this pandemic and what we can do as a class and as a society to, stop the spread and prevent a second wave from happening. I think this is a perfect opportunity to use my platform as a teacher to help them learn effectively and use the topic of the coronavirus as a way to, spark their motivation in learning, and using this opportunity in the classroom to educate further is important. And Most importantly, what I love being a teacher is you get to help impact the community every single day. I love being able to help others shape their future, whether or not it's just putting a smile on their faces or allowing them to learn something that gives them confidence into the world, knowing that they'll be a better person because of what I did or what I taught them. The intrinsic reward of knowing that you helped shape someone else's life for the better is just a great feeling, and it's something that it sounds a bit cliche, but it sounds like money, something that money can't buy. That feeling, and you can't really describe that feeling to someone. The joy of being a teacher to someone who actually teaches. So for me, I love doing that, and I love having students come back to me many years later and saying that I helped contribute or impact their life in a positive way.
What I love about being a teacher is to be able to be a part of the growth mindset in kids. And kids have a way of showing you and proving to you that the sky's the limit for them, and to be able to be a part of the building blocks of learning for them, something that they'll be able to carry on in the grades to come, is something special. And I teach kindergarten specifically, so the students that come to me, a lot of them don't know how to hold a pencil, don't know how to write their name, and by the time they go off to grade 1, they can read and they can write, and to be able to see their confidence in themselves grow is just, it's something magical.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced a new mobile app to help notify Canadians of potential COVID-19 exposure. Eagle News correspondent Kathleen Cruz has this report.
Canada Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced the COVID Alert app. It is the new national mobile app that informs users if they may have been exposed with someone who has tested positive for COVID-19. The app is free of download for Canadians from the App Store and Google Play Store. Here is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau for the announcement.
The COVID Alert app is ready to download through the App Store on your phone. Right now, it's connected to the Ontario health system, but we know other provinces will be joining in soon. So people across the country can and should download it today. This is another tool to protect your health. Here's how it works. The app will let you know if you've been in contact with someone who has the app and has tested positive for COVID-19. If that's the case, it will then encourage you to call your provincial health services for guidance on what to do. I want to be clear, this app isn't mandatory. It's completely voluntary to download and to use. And it doesn't collect your name, your address, your geolocation, or any other personal information. I've downloaded the app this morning, and I encourage you to do the same. The more people use it, the better it can trace and therefore slow the spread of the virus. In fact, health experts say that if enough people sign up, this app can help prevent future outbreaks of COVID-19 in Canada.
The app assigns a random code to a user's device that pings other users of the app via Bluetooth when they are within a range of approximately 2 meters. If they test positive for the virus, users can choose to upload their random codes to a central server located in Canada. Once uploaded, the random codes are stored on the server for 15 days, after which they are automatically deleted. The app uses strong measures to protect the confidentiality and privacy of all Canadians without collecting anyone's personal information. The province of Ontario will be the first one to distribute the one-time keys, while other provinces like British Columbia and Alberta will be on board in the coming weeks in an effort to support the safe gradual reopening of the economy and ensuring the safety of all Canadians from the virus. In Vancouver, Kathleen Cruz, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Now, with the latest updates coming from Ontario, we go to Eagle News correspondent Astley Sakmar.
Here are the news this week in Ontario. A one-of-a-kind sanitizing device is developed by an apple farmer. Nonprofit organizations will be receiving more financial support, and the province reports lower than 100 cases of COVID-19. An Ontario apple farmer has taken the technology used to clean produce and converts it to a device that can decontaminate N95 masks and other PPEs. This Ontario-made one-of-a-kind device is called the Clean Flow Healthcare Mini. This device can decontaminate up to 800 N95 masks and other PPEs per hour. Here is Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, Vic Fideli, announcing the government support for this innovation.
Businesses across our province have continued to introduce new solutions to ensure we are more self-reliant and well-prepared for any future challenges. That's why we're so proud to announce today's investment. As you heard from the Premier, our government is investing $2 million in CleanWorks medical and Pure Life machinery through the Ontario Together Fund.
This innovation will better equip healthcare workers as they help care and manage COVID-19 patients. Moving on to our next story from Ontario, the last few months have been tough for nonprofit organizations like food banks and child and youth programs as they support vulnerable individuals and communities. This week, they will be receiving $83 million to help them recover from COVID-19. Here is Premier Doug Ford with the announcement.
We'll be investing $83 million in the new Resilient Communities Fund through the Ontario Trillium Foundation. This funding will help nonprofit organizations build their fundraising capacity, recruit more volunteers, provide physical and mental health supports for staff, develop health and safety plans, and buy new equipment or renovate their facilities.
Lastly, as of Wednesday, Ontario reported 86 new cases of COVID-19. For 3 days in a row, Ontario has seen COVID-19 cases lower than 100. No deaths were reported on Wednesday. The province continues to encourage Ontarians to download the new COVID Alert app on their smartphone. The app is free and lets users know if they may have been exposed to the virus. And that is all for Ontario News this week. In Toronto, Astley Sakmar, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
After the break, we find out how the NBA players are adapting to life in the Orlando bubble. Eagle News International continues after this.
Ein sonniger Tag heute hier in Berlin vor dem Bundestag. Ich bin Irene Juliette Arzadon und möchte diese Gelegenheit nutzen, um ein paar Worte mit euch zu teilen. An alle Menschen da draußen. In dieser Zeit lasst uns nicht vergessen, den Menschen zu danken, die ihr Leben für uns opfern. Sei es die Menschen, die im Krankenhaus arbeiten, in den Altenheimen sowie in den Arztpraxen, aber auch an die Menschen, die im Lebensmittelhandel sich befinden. Die Kassierer. Manchmal reicht es aus, um ihnen ein freundliches Lächeln zu geben. Denn die Menschen, die heute am Arbeiten sind, weil sie nicht so wie einige von uns zu Hause bleiben können, die sollten wir wertschätzen. Ihnen sollten wir unseren Dank ausrichten. Darum lasst uns noch mehr zusammenhalten. Sie wertschätzen.
Nasa Diyos ang awa, nasa tao ang gawa. Ibig sabihin, kinakailangan ng tao na magpakasipag upang umunlad ang pamumuhay.
At dito kaagapay natin ang unlad sa pagbibigay nila ng hanap buhay sa ating mga kababayan.
Sa episode na ito ay tatalakayin natin at aalamin natin ang mga bagay ukol sa poultry o manukan. Ituturo din namin sa inyo ang maaaring ninyong pagkakakitaan dyan mismo sa inyong tahanan, ang manukan sa baon.
Samahan niyo po kami sa isa sa pinakamalaking poultry dito sa Pilipinas.
Ang Maligaya Mega Poultry.
Ako po, si Robin Padilla, at ito ang ulat. Kaagapay sa hanap buhay. Dito lamang po sa Net 25.
Passengers here are in for a ride. Taxi drivers here need nerves of steel, while passengers here can get an eyeful along the way. Rev taxis accommodate passengers all over the world. The Driver, our series. Rev.
Welcome back. You're watching Eagle News International. I'm Marco Zeruto. In sports, the Boston Celtics overpower the Miami Heat in the NBA season reopening. EBC sports correspondent Julianne Evangelista has the details.
The NBA has had much success in reopening their season in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic. Playing in the bubble may be the norm for now, but one thing that isn't lost is the competitiveness between the teams. On Tuesday night, the Boston Celtics tried to win 2 in a row as they went against the Miami Heat. Despite the late game push to overcome a 15-point second-half deficit, the Celtics fell short and the Heat came out with the W. Celtics coach Brad Stevens talked about the importance of improving on defense.
Our defense has to improve from what it's been in the first, 3 games or so. But credit Miami, they played with unbelievable intensity and togetherness tonight. And I thought that they were clearly the better team tonight. I thought that we started off defending really well in the first 3 minutes. Like, we were very active, very locked in, very engaged. We missed a few shots, and for whatever reason, it went kind of downhill from there. I thought at the start of the third quarter we were great. But you're fighting uphill then.
Miami Heat coach Erik Spoelstra spoke on the resiliency of his team after coming off of a loss a game before and withstanding the comeback effort of the Celtics in this game.
That's been a quality of our group the entire season, just to continue to persevere, try to get better, learn from games, whether we win or lose. It was a tough loss, last night, but we got right back to work in our team meeting and walked through this morning to prep. And a lot of guys stepped up. This couldn't be 2 or 3 guys playing well. You were going to need several guys playing well and doing it over the course of 48 minutes.
Coach Spoelstra also commented on the advantage of playing in the NBA bubble.
It does matter. It does make a difference if you're not jumping on a plane and arriving, in a hotel in a different time zone at 3 a.m. Those are legitimately, tough on teams, all teams.
Stay tuned for more coverage on the NBA on Eagle News and EBC Sports International. In Boston, Massachusetts, Julianne Louis Evangelista, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Julianne. Well, how exactly are the NBA players adapting to life in the Orlando bubble? EBC Sports correspondent Tenny Sumage files this report.
Majority of the NBA players have exercised their constitutional right to kneel during the national anthem. Orlando Magic forward Jonathan Isaac also exercised his right not to kneel before Friday's game against the Brooklyn Nets. Isaac also is the first and only player not to wear a Black Lives Matter t-shirt.
I believe that Black Lives Matter. A lot went into my decision, and part of it is, first off, is my thought that kneeling or wearing a Black Lives Matter t-shirt don't go hand in hand with supporting Black lives. I think when you look around, racism isn't the only thing that plagues our society, that plagues our nation, that plagues our world. And I feel like, coming together on that message that we want to get past not only racism, but everything that plagues us as a society. I feel like the answer to it is the gospel. Like I said, I think a lot of people have a stake in it with the flag. A lot of people have a stake in it with the president. I think a lot of people, have a stake in it with hating the flag or not hating the president or whatever. I in absolutely no shape, way, or form condone racism. I'm Black. I grew up Black. I have a Black little brother that lives in America. So I'm not for racism. I don't think that me not kneeling, before the game when wearing a T-shirt makes me mean that at all.
For more NBA highlights, tune in to Eagle News. In New York, Tenny Sumagi, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
We go to the kitchen now, where EBC's Rachel Lucis shows us how to make sushi. Rachel?
Today, I'm going to show you a simple snack. So if you're craving for sushi, I'm going to show you 3 different types of sushi that you can make at your home with or without a sushi bamboo mat. Let's get started! The first that we're going to do is the baked sushi. You can also mix in whatever seasoning that you would like in this step. You can also use sushi rice or any long grain rice, depending on what's available to you. At this point, make sure you keep an eye on your sushi. You can also add cheese depending on your liking. This is the texture that we're looking for, golden brown with a crisp texture. Now let's move on to the sushi rolls. You're going to need a bamboo mat for this one. You also have the option of having the rice on the outside just by flipping it. Make sure you lay out all your pieces evenly for an easy rolling. Now, if you don't have a sushi bamboo mat, you can either use a parchment paper or cling wrap. When rolling, always make sure to keep it tight from the start until the end. Keep your roll tight or else the sushi insides will fall. And now we cut them evenly to make sure they're all the same sizes. You can also customize the size depending on how large you cut your sushi. Another tip, always be careful when cutting the sushi. Be careful not to squish them. And here's another option of a tuna. You can also put salmon or prawns. And here's all of our sushi. In Calgary, Canada, Rachel Lucy's Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
That's our program for today. Join us again next week as we bring you stories that matter to you. Visit us on our website at eaglenews.net and on eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenews and on Facebook at facebook.com/eaglenews. Continue to always be safe, and let's continue to be responsible so that we can keep ourselves and our loved ones safe. Merci beaucoup. Salamat po. Thank you for watching. I'm Marco Zerudo. We live in interesting times.